Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we move on to day three. We are over halfway on day, or well over halfway now, 2/3 of the way through day two because of the cross-country race being abandoned. We've just had Captain Guinness win the Champion Chase after El Fabiolo pulled up after making a bad mistake. So John Bond didn't win, El Fabiolo didn't win. Edward Stone was going to finish third, in my opinion, coming to the last, or the second last when he came down. Clearly, he's not good enough to win a Champion Chase. I've kind of been saying that all season, that he's just not good enough against the top class graded horses. I don't even think those two at the front are top class. I think they're good, but they're thirds and fourths and fifths in usual Champion Chases. When you get the likes of who won the Arkle this year? I'm trying to think. Gaelic Warrior, El Fabiolo, John Bon, all of those back next season potentially. Whatever wins the Turners tomorrow could even go for that. If Facile Vega turns up and wins, all of those would be the winners today. And Edward Stone, just I don't know what they're going to do with him. They're going to keep picking up the pieces in English races, aren't they? And keep finding those Irish horses too good. The final thing I want to talk about very, very quickly, Langadan. I thought that was perfectly great placement from Dan Skelton. I don't have an issue with what he did with Langadan. It wasn't... Yeah, okay, the horse kept getting well beat. But the handicapper dropped him. And all the time the handicapper drops him, it gives them encouragement to keep doing it. So one of the, either other trainers have to follow suit. If we're, so obsessed with Cheltenham. Or the handicapper has to go, no, I'm not dropping you. I know what you're doing here. And for me, what I would do with Langadan, so I don't think he'll get dropped next season very much at all, even if he gets well beaten. They won't be coming back for a Coral Cup treble. I think they'll probably end up in a graded race next season because they'll be too high rated, because they'll have gone to Aintree and won at Aintree off a £6-7 high mark. You go to Aintree and win, you'll be a dual Cheltenham winner and a dual Aintree winner with Langadan. Happy days, career finished. You don't need to do anything, and if nothing else happens throughout the rest of his career, that's not to be sniffed at, So, yeah, just a little bit of Langadan. I don't think they did anything wrong. The handicapper just helped him out massively. Moving on to tomorrow. The first horse that I'm going to select is actually the Harry Skelton and Dan Skelton trained and ridden Grey Dawning. So, first of all, clearly his form is good. I think he was going to beat Ginny's Destiny 2 runs ago when he made a mistake jumping the second last. I was confident that he would have gone past Ginny's Destiny. He still only lost by 3/4 of a length. They beat Trelawn. Obviously, Trelawn got absolutely smashed up yesterday and then fell at the second, which was very frustrating. Grey Dawning should be second favourite, which he is. And he will be the best of the British, in my opinion. I think he'll beat Ginny's Destiny. Iroko, I couldn't be backing him off his layoff and the fact that we thought he was out for the season. And the rest just I don't think are good enough. It is whether they've got it right. Willie Mullins moving Facile Vega up in trip. I think they've moved Facile Vega up in trip because they didn't know what to do with him. They didn't know what to do in terms of Gaelic Warrior, we can win the Arkle with, so let's drop him back. Facile Vega, we're not sure. We're going to try him over the 2.5. Grey Dawning will be getting the trip, definitely. Whereas Facile Vega is not as it's not going to be as guaranteed. And with Harry's slight tendency to potentially go a little bit early, sometimes he does on his rides. Maybe he even did with Langadan, but that just because the horse carried him there. He can do that on Grey Dawning tomorrow, and I think he'll be able to really bring his stamina into play against Facile Vega. Facile Vega is not guaranteed to stay. Grey Dawning is. And yeah, with that in mind, I think Grey Dawning is the right bet in this race over Facile Vega. I think it'll be between them two. Moving on to the 210, the Pertemps Final. Obviously, one of mine. It's Lilos. Really, he could be completely thrown in, and he is actually now being well supported, partly because of the Harry and Dan Skelton angle, but I do think he'll run he always had a chance anyway. He's running off 142 on soft to heavy going. He won last season, beating Lord de Menil at Bangor on heavy going over fences off 142. He went off the 3-1 favourite that day. He then went to the Hennessy, also now called the Coral Gold Cup or whatever it's called now. It might have changed again. And won that off 146. Went off the 9-2 favourite and won that. He's £4 lower over hurdles. They got him qualified quietly in a 5-runner qualifier. Tell you what, for me, that's a great bit of placement to get him in that. Got him qualified, and then, the whole, somebody tweeted earlier that horses with ulcers should not be dropped in the handicap, and I replied with, where does that stop though? Horses that don't like going left-handed or right-handed, horses that bled, horses that hated the going. When they come back with all these excuses, at what point do you not drop them in the handicap? And similarly, last time out, Lilos ran over 2 mile 3. Considering he'd ran in the Grand National just 2 runs before over 4.25 miles, and his best result to date had probably been over 3 mile 2, finishing well beaten in a 2 mile 3 race, did that warrant the handicapper dropping him £4? Not really. Not really. He's now back up to a more suitable trip, 3 mile. That's probably when he's better judged. He's had, the last time he was actually trying to win a race, like really full out, everything going for it, would have been the Grand National. Didn't stay. And the time before that would have been the Coral Gold Cup. He wouldn't have gone for everything in the Premier Chase, because it was just a few weeks before the Grand National. He wouldn't have been trying fully in the qualifier. You just want to get him qualified. And he wouldn't have been trying at all last time out with Charlie Todd on board when he was well beaten in 13th over a trip way too short. He could be very, very well handicapped. The second one I want to talk about is Faro Dahlen, who Mr. James takes a very useful £7 off. So he runs off 154. Having previously been second to Gaoth Chul, is that how you say it? Who is he still favourite, or he's second favourite for this race? Faro Dahlen was just behind him. Now, interestingly, last year, Maxim won the race, and I think Good Time Johnny finished second. No, it was the Gigginstown horse that died that I thought had a really big chance in this race. I can't remember who it was now. Eric Bloodaxe. And I think they've kind of done the same thing again this year with another Gigginstown horse, finished second in that qualifier. Mr. Miller took 7 off last time. Mr. James takes 7 off. We know Mr. James is a good jockey and deserves that claim. Or doesn't deserve the claim, sorry. He's a better horse, a better jockey than a £7 claimer. If you take out this season, when we hope that this has been the plan for Faro Dahlen, he's got some really nice form. He went off 9-2 last year in the Brown Advisory. Not last year, the year before, sorry. In the Brown Advisory, when there was the likes of Presse, Ahoy Senor, Capodanno, 300-5, all in the race. And Faro Dahlen went off 9-2. He was 2 lengths down and going easily when fell 2 out. Potentially could have won that, therefore. Could have won the Brown Advisory, beating the third favourite for the Gold Cup, beating Ahoy Senor, who's won multiple times at Aintree, beating Gaylord de Menil, who won the long distance race last year and went and finished third in a Grand National, beating Capodanno, who Capodanno's won a decent race this year, hasn't he? Winning the Cotswold. It was actually really good form. And I don't think Cheltenham is an issue for Faro Dahlen at all. I think the £7 claim will really help him. And I think he's the best Gigginstown of the two, not Cletus Poulor. Poulor? Is that how you say that? I really like Faro Dahlen. But I'm hoping Lilos, obviously, for our lucky 15. I really hope Lilos has been plotted as well as Langadan was. Moving on to the 250. This is a race that I've struggled with quite a bit, to be honest, because I think the best horse in the race is Banbridge, but he doesn't want this going, so that's put me off Banbridge. I then don't really like Stage Star. I think he got a freebie last year. Didn't win last time out. He pulled up. I don't like Conflated. He's unseated the last twice. They didn't even know if they were going here. I don't like Fildor. I don't think he's good enough. I don't like Hitman. Not good enough. He'll travel well. Garlor. Don't think he's good enough. A Hoisinor will make too many mistakes. I would have probably saved him for Aintree. It kind of only leaves me with a few, including Envoy Len, who will definitely, I think he goes off favourite now, especially with the Bromhead and Blackmore having another winner. They've had a winner on day 1, a winner on day 2. I think Envoy Len goes off favourite. I am going to take him on with one of our previous selections that we've had on this video, Protectorat. I don't think his form at Cheltenham is bad. He's finished 5th in a Gold Cup. He's finished 3rd in a Gold Cup. He dropped back in trip. That could be the key for him. He's also finished 2nd in a Paddy Power Gold Cup when he went off the 11-2 favourite. Now, I thought that was a good bit of form, demonstrating that he clearly can go over this trip. And he actually made a mistake that day, if I remember rightly, which probably cost him the win. If he'd won that handicap, I think people would give him a bit more respect. He obviously then went to the Many Clouds Chase. He absolutely walloped them in the Many Clouds Chase, beating Native River. He's got some really good form. I just don't think he's quite good enough for the Gold Cup trip against Gold Cup horses. I don't think these are Gold Cup horses. I think these are horses that are slightly below that level. Envoy Len I have slightly below Gold Cup level. Same with Stage Star, Banbridge, Conflated. None of them would win a Gold Cup. Capadano clearly wouldn't. So Protectorat's probably taking on horses that are about his ability, and we know he's got Cheltenham form, and we know he can run well at this trip. I think Protectorat is the one I want to be on here, and he is, interestingly, the two I've kind of narrowed it down to are the two getting backed. But I'm going to take a chance on Protectorat. Harry can be very prominent on him, and again, he can go early because the horse should stay the trip. So I'm going for Protectorat in the Ryanair. We'll move on to the 3:30, and this is all about whether I want to take on Teahupoo, who, I mean, he ran a cracker in this, didn't he, last year? He was only 6. He's now 7. He's beaten Impere Pass at Fairyhouse. That probably was a very good performance. I think he just beat him on ability, didn't he? He finished 3rd in this race, last year, not 2nd, but he was only 6. And to be getting as close as he did at that age was probably very good. The only negative you could say, he got beat by Sire de Burley at 33s and Dasher Drasher at 40s. Is it that actually the race was really weak and he just found that that's his sort of level? I don't think those horses mentioned, Dasher Drasher and Sire de Burley, have any chance this year. Obviously Teahupoo actually finished 2nd, didn't he? Finished 2nd, got disqualified, demoted to 3rd. But I don't like Cranbourne, I don't like Noble Yates, I don't like Sir Gerhard, because I don't think he quite stays this trip. I'm actually going to take a chance on the Gavin Cromwell Flooring Porter, who, despite what I've just said, actually finished behind Teahupoo last year. But not by far. Just looking it up on my other screen, how far behind he was. He finished 3.5 lengths behind the winner. About 2 and a bit lengths behind Teahupoo. Now, coming into that race, they believed that Flooring Porter had a great chance, which he should have done. He was, a dual winner of the Stayers Hurdle. They have suggested that he's in better form this year than he was last year, and yet he still didn't finish that far behind the front few. I think he went too early as well. I think the jockey got it wrong last year. He kicked on way too early for me. And although he likes to make the running, I think he just got too excited last year, Danny Mullins, and went too early. Back at Cheltenham, with a different jockey on board, Keith Donoghue on board, I don't think he's going to be riding him quite as aggressively. And back over hurdles, I think he's the one I'm going to take a chance on, just a small bit on Flooring Porter at 11-1, hoping that he can bounce back to his best and show that the jockey actually got it wrong last time, not the horse. Moving on to the 4:10. I'm going to go for 2 in this. First one is the favourite, Krabilly. Highlighted it earlier in a previous video. I do think he's well handicapped. I think his form with Trelawn is very good. Trelawn, interestingly, if you listen to the interview from Kim Bailey yesterday, he was talking about Chianti Classico winning. He mentioned Trelawn a couple of times as well, as if he thinks Trelawn is also very well handicapped. I certainly believe so. Krabilly, I think, is also very well handicapped, and he only went up £1 for beating Tamuras and Trelawn. Krabilly, I think, would have beaten Ginny's Destiny on the old course in November. I think when he returned in December, it was all about getting him round and nothing else. But I think he would have beaten Ginny's Destiny in November. And if he'd beaten him, given him £1, and Ginny's Destiny's turning up like second favourite for the... third favourite, sorry, for the 3 mile chase. Off 140, Krabilly could be completely thrown in and still warrants... if you haven't backed him, I think he's still the biggest one to beat. If I wanted to find another horse that I think is interesting, I would probably be going for In Excelsis. No, I wouldn't. I would be going for Il Ridotto. In Excelsis Dio, I'm not sure about the trip. I would be going for Il Ridotto. I think he's going to run a big race for Paul Nicholls. Paul's runners haven't quite fired yet. But I think he's going to run a big race. We know he likes Cheltenham. We know he runs well at Cheltenham. This season, he's finished third behind Stage Star off 144 when Freddie took 5 off. But that was behind Stage Star and Not Long Till May. Both of those graded horses. Fourth was Fugitive, who obviously came out and won. Fifth was Unexpected Party, who is being well supported for a race coming up shortly on TV. Go back to last year, Il Ridotto finished 6th in this race off 146. He runs off the same mark, 146, but Freddie takes 5 off, so he's effectively £5 lower than when he ran a really good race last year over this course and distance, on the new course. I think he's going to run another big race. I think he's very, very solid. And he's probably... I think he's a great each way bet at 14s. I think he'll... What can you get? You can get 6s at Sky, but 6 places. I think he'll finish in the first 6. I think he'll finish in the first 5. I think he'll be one... He might not win it. He might find something is well handicapped. But I do think he will finish in the first 5. Il Ridotto. Moving on to the 450. The Ryanair's Mayor's Novice Hurdle. The Ryanair Mayor's Novice Hurdle. For me, this is Brighter Days Ahead to lose. I think she's very, very good. I think Gigginstown know they've got a good one here. Okay, she's dropping back in trip to 2 mile 1. It's not like she'd been running all of her career over 3 mile or even 2 mile 5. She won the Applejades Mayor's Novice Hurdle last time comfortably. But the time before that, she'd at least run over 2 mile and she'd won a grade 3. It's not that she's been consistently running over much further. And now she's dropping back in trip. This is just the one run to drop back straight back in trip, and I think that'll be absolutely fine for her. She is 6-4. I think she'll win that. And finally, moving on to the last race of the day, the 5:30. 2 that I like in this, both shortish. Don't want them to be too short. One of them's going to get a bit shorter, I think, again now, unfortunately, because it's trained by Henry de Bromhead. We'll start off with the other one. I know the way you're thinking. Could be one of these thrown-in horses for Derek O'Connor to give a steering job to. His form behind the likes of Gaelic Warrior obviously looks very strong. Gaelic Warrior, Il Était Tom. A lot of people wondered whether he would end up in the graded races at the Cheltenham Festival. He didn't. He went off 11-2 last time out for a handicap. It didn't quite work out. He might have needed a lot further. He did stay on quite nicely, and he was hampered quite early. He's going to run a big race, I'm sure, with Derek on board. But he's been priced accordingly. He's available at 7-2. The second one that I think is interesting is the Henry de Bromhead's Am I Right? Now, he was one of our selections a few runs ago for that horse. He finished... he went off the 11-2 favourite for the Irish National after we tipped him up at a much bigger price. Very frustrating, ran no sort of race. He then came back to Cheltenham recently, or I say recently, in October, finishing 4th. I think it was another sighter. I think it was a sighter at Cheltenham. The saddle did slip that day as well. He was travelling strongly until it all went wrong. The second horse that day was Twig. Twig has obviously franked that form yesterday by running a good race behind Chianti Classico. I think that Cheltenham form was potentially above average for that type of race. And then last time out, he finished 5th behind Meeting of the Waters, probably over a trip that I don't think suited. I think he wanted a bit further. And I think this trip, over the Kim Muir trip, is better than the Ultima that he was also in. This is the trip he wants. He might even want a bit further. Hopefully Noel McParlin can keep him close enough to get involved. You can see that the Wackett clan, who beat him earlier at Cheltenham, is also in this race and is well fancied. But yeah, I think Am I Right can reverse that form over a bit further, and I think it might be a race that they're really trying for. He hadn't run coming into the race earlier this season, or in October, and I kind of feel that they might have been looking at the course, looking at the Kim. They already had the Kim Muir in mind for Am I Right? So they are my last two. I Know the Way You're Thinking and Am I Right?